Happy March. It's Peachy and welcome. With March comes Women's History Month. Let's take a look at a great woman from our past that no doubtedly paved the way for others. If you have not seen any of my other Women's History Month videos, check out the playlist. It should be popping up at any moment now. Ella Jo Baker was born on December 13th, 1903, in Norfolk, Virginia. Growing up in North Carolina, she developed a sense for social justice early on, due in part to her grandmother's stories about life under slavery. As a slave, her grandmother had been whipped for refusing to marry a man chosen for her by the slave owner. Her grandmother's pride and resilience in the face of racism and injustice continued to inspire Miss Baker throughout her life. Ella Baker's maternal grandparents bought, lived on, and cultivated land that was formerly a part of the plantation on which they were enslaved. They bought the land for $250, which they paid off in installments. This purchase was the source of great pride for her family, and they went on to become successful farmers. Baker studied at Shaw University in Raleigh, North Carolina. As a student, she challenged school policies that she thought were unfair. After graduating in 1927 as class valedictorian, she moved to New York City and began joining social activist organizations. In 1930, she joined the Young Negroes Cooperative League, whose purpose was to develop black economic power through collective planning. She also involved herself with several women's organizations. She was committed to economic justice for all people and once said, "People cannot be free until there is enough work in this land to give everybody a job." At the Ella Baker Center for Human Rights, they continue her legacy, where they say books, not bars, jobs, not jails, and health care, not handcuffs. They know the prison system is the largest provider of mental health care and substance abuse rehabilitation in our country today. Prisons cannot continue to be the answer to these public health crises. Care based and community based solutions are the answer, like health care for all, free public education, and housing as a recognized human right. Ella Baker began her involvement with the NAACP in 1940. She worked as a field secretary and then served as a director of branches from 1943 until 1946. Inspired by the historic bus boycott in Montgomery, Alabama in 1955, Baker co founded the organization In Friendship to raise money to fight against Jim Crow laws in the Deep South. Ella's view of civil rights organizing was considered radical by many of her colleagues. She believed that everyday people needed to be their own leaders. To her, big speeches and big marches were not very effective. She believed a small but highly dedicated group was more powerful than a crowd of one time marchers. She also thought people needed to get their hands dirty in the work of activism in order to achieve real change. Listening to speeches and praying together was simply not enough. In 1957, Baker moved to Atlanta to help organize Martin Luther King's new organization, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. She also ran a voter registration campaign called the Crusade for Citizenship. On February 1st, 1960, a group of black college students from North Carolina A&T University refused to leave a Woolworth's lunch counter in Greensboro, North Carolina, where they had been denied service. Baker left the SCLC after the Greensboro sit-ins. She wanted to assist the new student activists because she viewed young emerging activists as a resource and an asset to the movement. Ms. Baker organized a meeting at Shaw University for the student leaders of the sit-ins in April 1960. The NAACP and SCLC hoped Ella would recruit these young people to join them, but Ella had a different vision. She encouraged the students to organize on their own. As a result, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee SNCC was formed. Ella saw great potential in SNCC. With its youthful energy, SNCC members worked on the ground, helping people in rural communities vote, educate themselves, and combat racism. In 1964, SNCC helped create Freedom Summer, an effort to focus national attention on Mississippi's racism and to register black voters. Miss Baker and many of her contemporaries believed that voting was one key to freedom. Today, that is still the case. If we do not exercise our collective voice, we are unable to influence the policies and laws that impact our lives. To be counted, we must be heard. With Ella Baker's guidance and encouragement, SNCC became one of the foremost advocates for human rights in the country. Ella Baker once said, "This may only be a dream of mine, but I think it can be made real." The dream of Baker's can continue to be made real. You can join her legacy and be a part of the Ella Baker Center for Human Rights today. In fact, you are a key to making Ella Baker's dream reality. The eventual dissolution of SNCC hit Ella hard, but she found ways to stay politically active. She volunteered her time, knowledge, and voice to a range of social justice issues. Ella Baker's influence was reflected in the nickname she acquired, Fundi, a Swahili word meaning a person who teaches a craft to the next generation. Baker continued to be a respected and influential leader in the fight for human and civil rights until her death on December 13, 1986, her 83rd birthday. Pretty interesting, wasn't it? I hope you learned something new, and if it wasn't new, it reminded you of this woman's great contribution. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever time you're watching this. Be safe out there. Bye for now.